Black UK artists are responsible for 80% of the UK's music revenue. And we still don't own a damn thing in the industry. Not control it, not run it, not benefit from it properly. Just contribute to it. The thing that pisses me off is that you lot hear 80% of something and start celebrating like we won something. Won what? Because the last time I checked, the people at the top don't look like us. This isn't just about Black artists. This is about Black culture. The style, the sound, the influence. We are the blueprint. But somehow, we're not the owners. So let me ask you something real. How are you responsible for the most value, but you're still asking for a seat at the table? That is not power. That's dependency dressed up as influence. This is what I keep saying. If we don't start thinking about the ownership and the structure and where the money goes, we'll be celebrating numbers that actually don't belong to us. I'm just keeping it real. Because generating the culture is one thing, but owning it, that's where the real power lies. So let me ask the UK artists this. Check your pockets.
Jeez.
Does it feel like you've touched 24 billion?
Eesh. This is one of those ones where my wife will probably say to me, if you can't say amen, you have to say ouch. I think that's so real. This is a conversation that needs to be had, and not just in the music industry. I believe our community needs to talk about this in multiple industries, media, sports, and it's always going to be like this until one ingredient is actually activated. And that ingredient usually comes with a secondary ingredient, both of which I'm going to break down in deep depth in the extended version of this video. But I'll just tell you what they both are. The first one is education. And when I say education, I'm not talking about academic education. I'm not talking about having a degree as an A&R. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is real education, the kind of education that is transformative. You know, 400 years ago, there was no such thing as the school system. 400 years ago, if your dad was a carpenter, you were best believing you were going to become a carpenter. 400 years ago, if your dad was a news anchor, well, he will pull the strings for you to become a news anchor. So what does that show us? That shows us that education isn't academic. Education produces transformation. And the moment you start to realize that education produces transformation, you start realizing that education is actually the key. And again, I'll say it again, I'm not talking about academic education. I'm talking about the kind of education where you shadow, where you mentor, where you are coached to a degree that you start to see what's going on in your industry. And I think that's what's missing. I think a lot of the people of the culture that find themselves in the music industry and many other industries, unfortunately, have never been educated. They never had that, in the case of music, I think I have to say, they never had that Jewish uncle, right? Because I've heard that a lot of the Jewish community are a big part of the top of music in the UK, but they've never had that Jewish uncle. They've never had that. And when I say uncle, I don't mean biological uncle. Like, you know what I mean? I'm talking about that older who would show them and school them and say, look, this is how it works. This is how we play the game. This is how we win. This is where the real win is. Because what happens a lot of the time is that I see this in property and real estate, for example. So I'll use that as an example. And even to make it simpler, let me use football as an example. I think that's just the simplest example where everyone can get it. And then we can touch base on the property example after, so we can get in more depth. But football, we just had the World Cup take place. In the World Cup, England came third. Okay, so that's like the 80% that's being spoken about by the creator in this video, which is super powerful, right? If you get 80%, it's easy to think, yeah, like we did well, right? Or we got our footing. But the reality is there's only one winner, okay? And it weren't England, okay? It's coming home, it's coming home, it's coming home. It didn't come home. So that song doesn't make any sense when you're third place. Okay, now is this me beating up on the England team and saying, oh, we didn't do good? No, that's not this. That is so far from this. This is me using this analogy to showcase what's happening in mainstream media, what's happening in sports, what's happening in music. What's happening is you're going into an endeavor where there's only one, maybe two places you can occupy and generate the leverage lever, okay? And that leverage lever is where all the wealth is. It's where all the control is. It's where the decisions are being made. And if you come third and you're a contributor to 80% of the impact, like you played enough games to get into the semifinals and etc., right? And people are watching you and people are saying, yes, you contributed to the tournament. You don't walk away with the trophy. You still don't own, as it was shared inside of the creator's video, you don't own the trophy, and you'll never own the trophy unless you come first, right? Or unless you create your own thing, right? In the US, we know Ice Cube has done something like that. He started his own basketball league called Big Something. I don't know what it is. Please forgive me for not knowing, but guys, let me know in the comments below what Ice Cube's basketball league is. And to the best of my knowledge, he's done that. He's created his own league so people can choose to patronize a FUBU kind of brand, a for us, by us kind of brand, right? When I was young in secondary school, FUBU was something that came out in the States. People in the UK were rocking it, for us, by us, like a cultural statement, okay? So this is stuff that we have to get our head around. If you are happy just getting a paycheck, then just get your paycheck. But if you understand that your child may not be able to get the same paycheck because you didn't do anything more than just get a paycheck, then that's when you might realize, well, hold on a minute, I need to shift out of this position of just getting a paycheck and into a position of I'm writing the checks. Now, it's interesting because this whole thing is reminding me of a conversation that I had with one of my coaches back in 2021, where she shared with me that one of the biggest challenges for our community in the UK is that we don't have a hierarchy, okay? And most people don't understand this rhetoric because most people are just happy to get their 9-to-5 paycheck, right? And when she shared that with me, she shared that all her time she spent in the US, she saw again and again, there is a hierarchy, right? People who start their business this week, and even if you knock it out the park and you hit $100,000 or £100,000 in a week, you still can't sit at the table unless you're paying, right? With someone who's been doing 100,000 every single week, every single month for the last 5 years. It's just, there's the levels are there in the US. Now, I said to her at the time, which I think is valuable, I said to her, the difference with the UK and the US in that regard is the US is so big in terms of landmass. So because it's so big in terms of landmass, there's so many pockets of people being able to do what they want to do, how they want to do it. Whereas in the UK is not that big in terms of landmass. So as a result, whatever you're doing, if your head goes above the parapet, if you actually start making way, people find out about what you're doing. And because people find out about what you're doing very quickly, and it's not a big landmass, there's only so much that can happen, all right? And I don't want to go down any negative roads of what those things are, or positive, right? But there's only so many opportunities. And this is why we find a lot of the time, really great actors in the UK go to the US of A, and typically do quite well over there. And so forth and so forth. Also, we're seeing the same thing with the exodus of millionaires or multi-millionaires or centi-millionaires that are happening in the UK as well. Like the UK increases the taxes, the millionaires say we're out of here, right? So why does all of this happen? I'll tell you why it all happens. It all happens because the UK, in terms of its landmass, is not that big. So it creates a situation where there isn't a hierarchy, there isn't a real separation or door that has to go through for you to be really successful and for you to be moderately successful and for you to be potentially not even successful, right? It's all a bit more of a muddle over here, which is one of the reasons I love the UK, which is one of the reasons I'm so glad and grateful I was born here, raised here. But at the same time, it's something we have to be aware of, because if we're not aware of it, guess what? We can't navigate it. Now, when you understand that, you then have to ask yourself, okay, well, how do I get into the rooms or at the tables, as was shared in the video, that I actually want to be in, and at the tables that I actually want to sit at? And the answer is, just like I shared earlier, you have to remember that 300-400 years ago, the education system we see today was not the education system back in the day. So if it wasn't education system back in the day, how would I get a seat at the table? Well, it's the same way people are getting seats at the table today. It's because my dad, my uncle, my brother, my sister, my cousin, cuzzy just called me, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Now, we live in a modern era, so unfortunately, it is who you know, but it's also what you know. Because if you don't know enough, you're not going to be in the room or even close to the room to see how to get in the room. And when you do know enough to be in the room, it's then who you know that's going to make things change in the room for you. So I think we need to really talk about this. So let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are about this situation. Do you think that it's cool to just contribute, to come third and say, yeah, we came third? Because, you know, what's the outcome of that? If we want to keep it real, what's the outcome of that? The outcome is, again, we didn't get the same racial rhetoric, but we did get, like I covered in one of my videos previously, Sarkar being asked some crazy questions in his interview by a reporter about the fact they came third, right? And whether or not he was already going to take the penalty, or whether he was let take the penalty by another player, right? Like we get all of this rhetoric that always comes unless we win. And this is the same in music. This is the same in media. This is the same in any industry. Unless you win, all of that negative press and negative rhetoric is still going to come in. And guess what? Here's the beautiful thing. Even if you win, the same negative rhetoric and the same negative media still comes in. The only difference is, you know that you got the win. So let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on this. If you'd like me to do another video where I break down this same dichotomy, but in a property example, let me know in the comments below as well. Just write the word property in caps, and then I'll know that you want me to do a breakdown on that. And then I'll do a jump off of this video on another video or something like that. I'll find a way to make it happen. But you know what I've always said, if you got value from this, you know what to do. Like, comment, and subscribe. Become a part of the tribe. Side by side with that, if you think this kind of content is good, then always remember that small keys like these open up big doors. And I'll see you on the next one. Good day, God bless. Let's go.
Small keys open big doors.